Welcome to the Evening Review. My name is Sohana Klache. Today, we're joined by the media professionals who started a union recently, and we will get insight into why a media union was started for Namibian journalists. Do stay tuned, but before we go into the interview, please take a look at today's newspaper. Joining us on the Evening Review is Sakeus Iikela of the Media Union of Namibia. Welcome to Evening Review.
Thank you for having me, Ohone. I think you pronounced the name of the union wrong. The name of the union is actually the Namibia Media Professionals Union.
Oh, sorry for that.
Yes.
Sorry for that. Tell me, where does the union, what led to the formation of the union?
If you look at the history, sorry, of Namibia's media industry, there has been several attempts that were made already by the colleagues who have been in the media to have a union that represents the interests of journalists, but unfortunately those attempts have not materialized. But when we came into the media, some of us who are young and energetic and want to bring change, we found a system that is not working for the interests of journalists. You know, the media is first to point out irregularities that are happening elsewhere in any other company in Namibia. But if you look at what is happening within the media industry, nothing is basically said. People are exploited, people are underpaid, overworked, but nobody stands up to talk about these things. So we thought, we cannot have a situation like this. We needed to have an entity, a legal entity, where journalists and media professionals can go and raise their issues and get their issues resolved. That's why we came about to form the union.
Okay. There was a convention that was held last week, Friday, where leadership for the union was elected. And coupled with that, I want to understand, what is the status of the union now? Has it been formally registered with the Ministry of Labor? And and what is the process in terms of establishing bargaining units?
What you get from the Ministry of Labor is basically a recognition certificate to say that we recognize you as a labor union, but that cannot prevent us from existing. We have already filed our draft constitution with the ministry, but apparently the process there, people are telling us that the commissioners that are working on these documents are swamped with several other applications of other people who wants to form their unions. So they said that the process could take longer. We don't know how long, but they said that the process could take longer. So we thought, while we are still waiting for that process, we needed to officially launch the union so that we can start already working on some of these issues that we have targeted to work on.
Speaking now of the programs that you've targeted to work on, what are the immediate projects or activities that the union is expected to undertake?
Yeah, first of all, we want first to establish the union and then look at some of the short-term objectives that we can achieve. For example, forming partnerships with other established unions on the continent and internationally. Those who advocate for press freedom and freedom of expression and the rights of journalists and media professionals. We have the IFJ. That is one of the body that supports
And the IFJ would be what now?
Yeah, it's basically we want to affiliate to the IFJ so that we can, whenever we have issues of labor disputes, we can always look upon them to them for guidance and advice and how to tackle some of these issues. Yeah, but of course, once the year is already now ending, we are now in December. Next week is December, so there would not be much of activities from now on, apart from the membership drive that we intend to take, and then the registration with various offices and establishing of networks with various organizations.
How important is it for journalists or media practitioners as a whole to belong to media unions?
Yeah, it is very imperative that all journalists, let's say, we don't really have a bigger population of journalists in Namibia, but it is very important that all journalists become members of our union, because if you look at the way things have been done in the past, no journalist in Namibia has been represented by any union before. There are other unions that represent government employees. There are other unions that represent teachers and nurses, but journalists who basically deal with these things, nobody has ever been there to represent them. So it is very important that journalists unite and come together and form a united voice, so that we can be able to address some of these issues. For example, I can give you an example of issues that are happening currently. We know things are happening, but we are not able to solve them, because you cannot solve issues alone. So once you form a collective voice, that's when you will be able to take on entities like the NBC or entities like the Namibian, so that you can have your issues resolved. Some of the issues that are happening in the media industry, for example, at some media organizations that I know, but I will not mention now.
Yes, of course.
Are that people are employed, or journalists are employed on a monthly contract. That is an insecure and unfriendly work environment. We cannot employ someone for a month, and then you want to say that no, once if you perform or if you didn't perform, your contract will be terminated at the end of the month, or let's say it will be renewed. You cannot. That is something that we need to resolve immediately. We can't have a situation like that
existing.
Yeah.
How would you describe, as a media practitioner in the field, how would you describe the current media setting within the country? In terms of remuneration of journalists, in terms of their safety, in terms of conditions of employment? Yeah,
I mean, we always preach that Namibia is one of the recognized advocate of press freedom on the continent. And we acknowledge that, we appreciate it. But when it comes to the interest of journalists, we are turning a blind eye. Nobody says, okay, the fact that we are ranked #1, journalists are operating in this manner in the country, or they are looked after. They don't suffer. They are not intimidated at their workplaces. Nobody looks at that. They just look at people are reporting on multi-million-dollar corruption cases. There's no intimidation from the government. But what happens then within the newsroom? Are people forced to work odd hours? Are people paid when they work overtime? Are people given enough career building incentives, for example, a study leave, or let's say, do we actually have training opportunities for journalists who want to elevate or improve their careers? There's nothing like that. So, I mean, I would say, as much as we don't have pressure, let's say, from the government, or let's say those in power, there are still issues that need to be resolved, so that we can make the Namibia media industry conducive and friendly enough for everyone to work in. Yeah.
And then when it comes to the issue of unions, there's always this question that comes up about political affiliations or affiliations to this movement or to that movement.
Definitely, yeah.
How would you describe this new union? Is it affiliated to, for example, the ruling party? Is it affiliated to other organizations?
No, this is a media professionals union. The first thing that you need to consider is that people who work in the media industry, or let's say journalists, in Namibia we enjoy a free environment where journalists can freely express themselves without fear or intimidation. We operate in an environment where the highest standard of ethics is expected from us as journalists. So in terms of affiliation, we have not yet affiliated to anyone. We are entirely an independent entity. We do not affiliate to a political party. We are not a political party. And we, as I said earlier, that we would, of course, look in the future to establish solidarity networks with like-minded unions, unions that we think are not compromised in their character, and unions that also advocate for the same things we advocate for: the better working conditions of journalists, better working environment for journalists, and the freedom of expression and freedom of the press. Yeah, but in the meantime, we are not affiliated to anyone.
For a union like this, there are two important stakeholders. On the one hand is government, and on the other hand is the employers of these journalists.
Yes.
Have you had conversations with either of the two very important stakeholders, and what have the results thereof been?
Yeah, that has not happened yet. As I said, that the union, as you know, that the union was only officially launched on Friday. We are yet to engage with employers. We are yet to set out the terms of reference with, and we are yet to establish various networks, and then start making now meetings with various employers, and to educate them on where we are coming from and what we would want from them to make sure that our members are looked after.
And then perhaps in closing, your message to journalists or media practitioners out there watching the interview.
Yeah, no. I would just like to urge everyone else, as I said earlier, that this union is here to represent the interest of journalists, address some of the issues that has been prevalent but never talked about in the media industry. So this is one entity that we have to now have our issues resolved. And it is only through joining and paying up your membership and whatever would be required to pay, to pay so that you can have your issues resolved.
Thank you very much for joining us on Evening Review.
Thank you for having me.
Do stay tuned for the weather. Good night.